Hi everyone, it's Renee. I hope you're having a blessed day and we are continuing on our journey through Psalms. I hope you all are enjoying this. I know I am. I'm having so much fun and just love spending time in the Word and just being creative. And when you can combine those two things together, it's perfect for me. But today we are going to be in Psalms 107. And the title on this one in my Dayspring Bible says Thanksgiving for God's Deliverance. And it talks about all the ways that God has delivered people in the past. And the very first few verses say, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His faithful love endures forever." Oh my gosh, I love that. "Let the redeemed of the Lord proclaim that he has redeemed them from the power of the foe." He has redeemed us from death. He has redeemed us from everything, from our past, from our sins, from our heartache, from our shame, everything. He's redeemed us from everything. And especially from the ultimate, the death, death, the ultimate foe that we have. And it says he has redeemed them from the power of the foe and has gathered them from the lands, from the east and the west, from the north and the south. And then, like I said, the verses go on to explain how God has delivered people in the past and his people and what he has brought them through. And so today I just really wanted to do a page on giving thanks and thankfulness. And, because when it said Thanksgiving for God's deliverance, the first thing that popped into my head was, being grateful and being thankful. And of course, when it says Thanksgiving, the first thing that popped into my head, at least, was Thanksgiving images and fall images. And I know we're in the summer, and I know it's 100 degrees out, at least where I'm at. But this whole thing just kind of put me in the fall mood. So today we are going to be playing with some fall colors, and I really want to show you some embossing. We're going to have some embossing fun with this copper embossing powder. And if you haven't ever embossed before, oh, you guys are in for a treat. It's so much fun. It's like magic before your eyes. So I'll show you how that works as well. So I'm trying to show you different techniques in all these videos, just so, maybe you'll see something that you're like, oh, I haven't tried that before. I would really like to try it. And so I just want to encourage you all, just go for it. Go for it. You can't ruin your Bible. You'll be fine. Have fun with it. And like I said, if you don't want to do it in your Bible, you could do it on a separate sheet of paper, whatever. But really, it's all about just being creative and letting God lead you and maybe trying a few new things. Remember, be brave. You can do this. I know you all can do this. So right now, I have these little, I think these were my son's watercolors from when, we would just, little $1 or 50-cent watercolors. I mean, they're so tiny. These are not great watercolors at all. They're not expensive, but you can use whatever you have. And so I try to use a little bit of everything I have and make sure that nothing goes to waste. So really, I am just wetting like a few of the colors that I think I'll be using. I mean, starting to get it all activated and going. So I want to use a little bit of the oranges and yellows, and I'm just going to be kind of swishing along the sides. Get a little bit darker. Let me grab always have your paper towel with you, because y'all know it can get messy. And so right now I am just swishing the watercolor along the sides and top, just getting the color on and doing some like oranges and browns and reds. I don't think I really have any browns. I should probably grab some browns out. And I just kind of wash this off so it doesn't get on the next page. And I want to get it a little wetter, so I want it to be really watercolory, I guess, if that's a word, watercolory. Probably not a word, probably another one I made up, y'all. And I like just mixing my colors. I know that probably drives a few of you nuts, but with these kind of watercolors, I really don't care, and I mix them, and you can always take a paper towel, wipe them off when you're done at the end, and they're fine. So if you don't really... And I'm just going to kind of dab so you get this other effect. Oop. So I'm just going to So you get this, you know, swooshy effect. I don't know. Again, not a word. And then I want to do, so I think I'm going to do with this brush, I'm going to try it. I want some really big splotches. Oh yeah. So these are really tough bristles. And I'm getting some, I do a little bit, and then I want some bigger splotches. So the closer you are to the paper and the harder you flick your brush, you'll get some bigger splotches in areas. If you have a lot of bristles like this. If you have a smaller brush, it'll be a little different. Woo, that was a big one. There we go. And if you don't like it, just dab it up, and you can always, you know. Ooh, that's cool. Okay, so we're gonna dry this real quick so we can move on to our next thing. Our next process is gonna have, this has to be dry. So I'm gonna move my water and my brushes and then move this over. We're gonna dry this as quick as possible. And actually I'm thinking I might want, I don't know if I want some brown, I'm gonna do some green. Let me find my green watercolors. Some like foresty green. So it comes in all these little packets. And I don't know exactly where I got these from, but I remember I've had them since my son was really little, and we used to play with these. So they're all messed up. This one doesn't even look like I even used. Ooh, I love how this is drying right here, this area. Love it. And when you dry your watercolor and then go back in with other colors, they won't kind of muddy as much. They won't blend into each other. I mean, they will, if you put a lot of water on them, because you'll reactivate them. If it's watercolor, you'll, you know, they're meant to react with water. But if you kind of dry it and do it in layers, you'll get a layered feel. You'll get the different textures and layers of the colors on top of each other, if that makes sense, versus them, you know, flowing into each other and blending into each other. You'll have more of a distinction, I guess. So let me grab my watercolor, my water again, and get some of this green in here. I do a little bit of this kind of green. Let me see what color this is before I put it on there. A little bit of brown, a little bit of green. Because I found some fall type napkins. And so I'm going to be using a little bit of napkins on this page, as well as the embossing powder. I'll put some green there. And so I'm just kind of taking the fall colors, the greens, the oranges, the yellows, the browns. We're gonna pretend that it is perfect sweater weather and we can go outside and not be dripping with sweat every time we just step foot outside. We're gonna pretend that there's a soft breeze going on and the leaves are turning colors and everything is just perfect weather right now. That's what I'm pretending right now while I do this. Okay, so let me dry this layer real quick, be really fast. And again, it helps if you flip the page over and dry the back side as well. I really like that look. Okay, so close up, this is what it looks like. You can see the different layers and the different kind of building up you get of color. I love that look. As you all know, I do this a lot on a lot of my pages. I just have fun with that. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is grab your napkin. Now this is the napkin that I was talking, I just stuck my finger in my gesso. Okay, so this is the napkin that I had. See the different colors, the oranges, the greens. So let me move this and move those out of the way. Grab my gesso. So I have my gesso and I have my water, so I could water down my gesso a little bit if I need to. And I'm just gonna, so I just tore off all the plies except the top ply. And I love using napkins for pictures because, again, you don't have to draw anything. You can get a picture down very quickly with no problem. And it looks like you're this great artist and you didn't have to do anything except for glue. So something like this, I'm gonna start at the bottom. And see, I told you we're gonna be covering most of this up. Some of it will show through the napkin, but sometimes I like to do layers, and then everyone's like, well, why are you doing so many layers if you're just gonna cover it up? And I know it's there. I know it's there. And it's fun to do it. And you'll see once we get the napkin down, some of it will show through the napkin. And it's easier just to do the whole page because sometimes you don't know where your napkin's gonna stop at or whatever, and you don't wanna just have that, you know, no color and then all of a sudden you got color. So it's just easier to blend and have the page look like one unified page when you just kind of do it like this and just do the whole page. So I'm just laying just a watered down layer of gesso, and then just smoothing my napkin over it. And I do it in stages. That helps get rid of all the crinkles and the bubbles and things like that. Okay, whoop. Okay. Grab this and make this flat. Make sure I'm in camera for y'all. Okay, and then just kind of go back and get the spots that you missed. Really easy. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, again, water down just a little bit. I'm going to work from the inside out. You've all heard me say this before countless times. And then this helps secure your napkin. It helps make the napkin more translucent as well, so you can see the words through the napkin if you so choose. It helps just smooth out some of those wrinkles and crinkles and stuff in your napkin and bubbles and what have you. So it's doing a bunch of duties all at once. It's smoothing out your napkin, securing it, making it more translucent, just all that, all the good stuff. You have to be kind of gentle with these napkins, but as I said before, they're pretty resilient. And if it tears, you just kind of piece it back together. It's like tissue paper. Okay, almost done. Trying to do this quickly. Okay, and I'm gonna go through and just wipe off this gesso so it doesn't stick to the under page. Okay. Okay. And let's see, I had this other little piece right here that was from a different napkin, but fall. And I was thinking of just kind of putting it up there because I'm gonna put a title here. So let's get that down and then we'll dry this real quick. I like the little swirlies. Feels like the wind's blowing the leaves around. Okay, so we're gonna dry that real quick. Then we're gonna get into the fun part. This is all fun, but the embossing part is like the really fun part. And see, you can still see the spots shining through the napkin, your little paint and daubs of paint coming through. And you can barely see it, but you can see that I painted the bottom and the sides. And you'll be able to see that a little bit more when it gets dry. And it just gives some tint to the back of the napkin as well. Okay, now this part has to be completely dry before we can do the embossing. Otherwise the embossing powder will stick to everything if it's not dry. It'll stick to anything that's wet. We don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and dry the back part. Y'all can see here. I'm drying the back part. That helps with the drying process. It's a little bit wet in some spots. I hope you all are enjoying the videos. I know I definitely am having fun making them and crafting and just creating as we go. This is kind of keeping me accountable as well. You know, instead of me just saying, oh, I'm not gonna journal today, or I'm just gonna read and take some notes, this is kind of keeping me accountable and journaling as well. So I'm doing my notes and making sure I'm getting my journaling, you know, my painting and crafting done at the same time. I know being in the Word is the most important part. So whether you craft or not, just be in the Word. So, okay, let me move all this. I'm gonna cover these. We don't need our watercolors anymore, so you can cover your watercolors. Move those to the side. I just used a piece of wax paper here to put my watercolors on, so that just seems to help. Look, see? Seems to help, and so you don't get color everywhere like I'm doing. And then the wax paper is super easy to clean up and just move it to the side. Okay, so if you have not used embossing powder before, you need something called Versamark, or something that's a watermark stamp pad, okay? Any kind of watermark stamp pad. Versamark seems to be the most well-known. You can use any kind of embossing powder. Now this one's a copper. They come in all different colors. It's like very fine glitter, kind of. Very fine powder or glitter, depending on if you have shiny ones or not. They come in clear, they come in white, all different colors. And again, like I said, this one I'm using the copper because bigger fall colors, you know. So I have the title, So Very, if you can see that, So Very Grateful. I did this ahead of time because you guys didn't want to see me putting each individual letter on there. It took me like probably 20 minutes just to do this part. So this is the kind of stuff I do ahead of time so I don't bore y'all to death. So very grateful, because I'm so very grateful that I have been delivered. And you all are going to laugh when you see my Versamark pad. It has been well used, well loved. They're not supposed to look like this, but with kids and different craft groups I've had, there's glitter in here. We burned it at one point. I don't even know what all, but it still works. So I'm still going to use it. Like I say, all the time, I use what I have and I try to use it until it's gone or until it's just not working anymore. So just like with any stamp pad, you're going to get the Versamark or the watermark, you know, pad of ink all over your stamps. You want to get it pretty well saturated. You're not going to see that it's on there. It's clear. So I'm going to put it right here and press really hard because I want it hopefully to get a really good impression on here. And you can't really tell. I mean, if you can see that, you can see it kind of shimmery, shiny, that it's on there. But that's about all you're gonna see. Okay, and before that dries, this is where it gets a little messy. So you're gonna want a piece of paper that you're gonna put underneath. And I'm gonna tilt it this way so it doesn't go over my napkins. So you're gonna pour, look how pretty that is. Oh, it's gorgeous, gorgeous colors. You're gonna pour it onto your stamp and you're gonna kind of swish it around to make sure that it gets on your stamp everywhere. See that? You can see? And then you're gonna tilt your book. It's hard to do it in a big Bible. With one sheet of paper, it's not so very hard, but when you got bows and all that other stuff like I do, you want to kind of like shake them out and make sure you get all the powder off. And then move your bottle to the side. And a little trick is if you don't have one of those trays, a lot of people have like embossing trays or whatever. I just put a piece of paper like this. I fold it up like this and just tilt it and tilt it back into my my little tube of embossing powder, my little container. And this stuff will last a very long time because you pour a lot on your paper, but then you only use a little bit. Okay? Now we're gonna dry this, and you guys have to watch. This is the fun part. It's like magic before your eyes. So watch this, how when it dries, I'm hoping you can see it on camera. So it takes a little while for it to activate. So you're gonna get it dry. You're gonna just kind of go back and forth. And you'll start seeing it change. I'm really hoping you'll be able to see it on camera. Okay, it's starting to change a little. Do you see it? It starts to kind of like melt into each other. And look at that, it's like magic. And let me show you up close. So that powder, I don't know if you can see that, turns into, it kind of melts into each other. So it turns into like a raised, kind of like a plastic almost, like you feel it and it's, you know, it's not powder anymore. And then with the glitter in it, you get that shine. So I love it, I just love it. So now we're gonna do a couple more. I had these little swirly swirls, and I'm trying to see if I had another one of these out. Maybe, I guess I don't. So I'm just gonna pull these off real quick. Pull these letters off. Because I'm gonna need this. I could probably go run and grab another one of these, but it'd just be easier if I just... And you can just wipe those off with like a baby wipe to get the Versamark off them, which I'll do before I put away. So I got this little swirly swirl, and I'm thinking I can maybe do both of these at the same time. So let me see. I have this swirly swirl and this swirly swirl. I know that is not the technical term. I'm trying to think where I want these to go. I wanted the bigger one to go the other way, but I had it upside down when I had it on the sheet, when I was kind of looking at it like that. So let me see. Let me see if I have another one that's, let's see. I have these little doodles. Maybe this one will go the other way. Let's see. Let me see what it'll look like. Maybe I'm just spatially not looking at this the right way. Don't y'all laugh. Okay. Just trying to see if I can get these on. Oh yeah, this will work. Okay, I gotta just try to see if I can get, I might have to do one at a time because I want them to be bigger angle. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna get my Versamark. Move all this, move all this. Don't need this one. Okay. So I'm gonna get my Versamark and really get this all inked up. Just make sure I'm getting it all. And then place it where you think you want it. Press hard. That's another reason why I have this on the back sheet, so it gives me a little bit more stability in places I could press my stamps on. Let's see, this one's gonna kind of go down that way. So if you have any swirly stamps, or you can just draw it in. If you have any glitter pens, gel pens, if you don't have embossing powder, use glitter pens. Use anything of what you have. I hope this is gonna, with the spiral here, I'm trying to pick up the page to make sure that it's getting in all the spots, because that spiral part of the book, yeah, was holding this part up, so I had to press a little bit differently. Okay, so then cover your Versamark, grab your embossing powder, and you're gonna do the same thing. So you're gonna pour it over your stamp part. It's hard to see the stamp, but if you put it in the light, you can see it. You can see kind of where the stamp is. And just kind of shake your paper, make sure it's getting everywhere where it needs to be. It's hard to do it with this big book, y'all. It's a lot easier to do it when you have just a sheet of paper. Okay, I want to make sure it gets into that. I want to make sure it gets over here, but without going into all my other pages. There we go. And if you tap your paper like this, it'll all come off. Most, you know, should all the extra stuff come off. You can also take a little brush and brush around the areas that you want it off. Usually if I just tap the page like this, it all comes off fine. So I'm gonna move that again. And I'm just gonna clean this part off. So I grab my little container and just kind of shake it all in. Okay, and then I'm moving that because I don't need that anymore. And I'm gonna take this, kind of wipe it off and pour it in the rest of the container. And then this I'll clean off later. Usually I'll just kind of go like that. Oh, done. Okay. And then we're gonna dry this one. You can get this all gussied up and ready. Okay. See if you can see it change. So it looks like powder right now. It's gonna start melting into each other and start looking like the title. And you see it start to change in front of your very eyes. I'm not sure if you guys can see this on camera. It's starting to change right now in certain spots. Yeah, but this stuff is so fun to play with. This is what makes me happy, this kind of stuff. I know it makes me weird and crazy, but it's like, woo, the embossing powder is starting to change. It's so fun. I don't think I know of a crafter who doesn't like this part of it. We all get a kick out of it for some reason. Like I said, it's like a little magic in front of your eyes. And there you go. Now it's permanent. That powder will not come off anymore. See? You can rub on it, it won't come off. So that's what makes that so magical. Okay, and then the last few things, or last thing, maybe I guess, I gotta cut off these little edge of the napkins. So let me do that along this side of the paper. I'm gonna hold this way so I have a better, can y'all see? All I'm doing is cutting this little overhanging part of the napkin that's overhanging the page. I'm just cutting that part off because we don't need that there anymore. I should probably use my tiny scissors. I just grab these. Okay, there we go with that. And so I told y'all I had another napkin, and it actually says, "Give thanks to the Lord, his love endures forever." And it said on here, Psalm 107, verse 1. "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, his faithful love endures forever." And so I'm thinking of putting that down here, and I'm just going to do it the same way I put the other napkin down. So I'm going to grab some of this leftover gesso or a Mod Podge or watered down glue or whatever you have. I'm gonna put this here. And the other napkin will show through it if you cover it just like that. So it looks like it was part of it. And then I had this little piece of the napkin left over from up here, and I figured I'll just put that, you know, so I really try to use everything of what I have, every little piece, and try to figure out a way I can use it. I like that. Okay, and finally, the last thing I had is, y'all know I keep literally everything. And this was, let me see if I can find. Okay, so this was from a bag from, I think, a couple Thanksgivings ago. My friend had us over at her house, and she had all these little confetti pieces on her table. And she had these little leaves and these little pumpkins, and this was from a cupcake or something, you know, and she had all this on her table. And as we were leaving, she was cleaning up her table, and she's like, "Renee, I know you're gonna want this stuff for your journaling." So I had this bag that I've used for the last couple years with all this little confetti. So again, I'm thinking I want to put, let's see if I can get y'all a camera right here where this is kind of like an as a tab kind of. I'm thinking of putting this, and then this says thanks, and teeny tiny confetti, you know, and just do something like maybe like that, and just staple it up there because we got all this little shiny stuff. So okay, so this is the Tim Holtz tiny stapler, tiny attacher, I think they call it. And I kept hearing people saying, "Oh, I'm using my Tim Holtz, or I'm using my tiny attacher. I'm like, what the heck is that? Well, then I found out, and I'm like, I don't think I'll use it, so I never bought it. I bought it this past year on sale at Joann's or someplace, and I use it all the time. It's like a baby stapler, but it doesn't, I mean, I think there are other little baby staplers out there that you can get, like the little teeny tiny ones with the tiny staples, but I use this a lot more than I thought I ever would. So I like it when I find tools or materials or things that I would use on a regular basis versus buying something and then barely using it. I like to find things that I use often and get my use out of. So this little tiny attacher, it's just a stapler, and I'm trying to get them all in one. And there you go. Easy peasy. So you see this little teeny tiny staple in there. So it's like a little baby stapler. And there you go, there's your page. So I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you had fun learning about embossing, and maybe it's something, if you haven't tried before, you'd like to try. Or, you know, maybe you can get this effect doing other things if you don't have embossing powder. Like I said, glitter paint. You can get it with, you can even just put like regular paint down and then use one of these, these are the jelly rolls. These are like $1, I think, or even less than $1. And they're the glitter kind, if you find the kind with the sparkle on it. They're like just clear glitter. You can use the glitter gel pens, anything, any of that kind of stuff. So if you don't have embossing powder, you don't have to do that. But again, you don't even have to do a page exactly like this. This is just an idea for you, just to get your creative juices flowing, and maybe, you just spending more time in the Word. So I appreciate your time, y'all. I love that we get to spend time together and we spend it in the Word. I hope you all have a very blessed day, and I will see you next time. Bye.